but is there anything that the United Nations could do to effectively end this war between Israel and Palestine, or Israel on Palestine?
But it could start, the United States could start it by telling Israel, stop the bombing in Gaza, pull back to your borders, and we're going to require you to vacate the West Bank. You no longer get to occupy the West Bank. You no longer get to occupy Gaza. You're going to treat those as distinct states. Now, that'll never happen. The influence of the Jewish money and Jewish vote in this country is so great. Any politician to try to do that would be committing suicide, political suicide. That's what needs to happen. Because you know what, Stephen, think about this. What's going on right now is Israeli forces, and they're referred to as Israeli occupation forces, not defense forces, are going into the West Bank, which is not Israeli sovereign territory, and they are arbitrarily grabbing people as young as 10 years old, grabbing them and throwing them in prison. No charges, no due process, no lawyer. They're just picking them up and incarcerating them because they can, to show who's in charge. Well, think about if that happened to your family. Would you be outraged if someone came and grabbed your 12-year-old son or 12-year-old daughter and took them forcibly away from you and threw them in prison? Because let's say maybe they had thrown rocks at something. Okay, throwing rocks is bad, and there's a way to discipline a child over that, but not by putting them in an Israeli military prison, which is exactly what's happening. Israel has turned itself into a bunch of authoritarian thugs. And I say this as someone who used to be, I would put myself in, I stand with Israel. I no longer do. I no longer can, because of their conduct of how they're treating Palestinians as subhumans. They're making no distinction between the Hamas fighters who committed terrorist acts and the Palestinian people. They're saying basically, like what was said by that one U.S. general in the West with respect to Indians: nits make lice. He didn't care about, he would just as soon kill an Indian child as an Indian warrior, because in his view they were subhuman. And that kind of dehumanization is what is being allowed so far by the United States. Now, we are seeing signs that the Biden administration is really, really nervous, and they keep sending mixed signals. Because early in the war, they indicated, boy, we're all in with Israel. And then after about 2 weeks, they're going, no, wait a second, we're going to see if we can promote, we'll talk to Jordan and to Egypt about opening up a safe passage for Palestinians and the West Bank people to go into those countries. Both Jordan and Egypt said, hell no, and double hell no. That's not going to happen, because they know as soon as the Palestinians leave that, then that territory would be taken over by the Israelis, never to be returned to any Palestinians. So now the United States recognizes they have to keep the Palestinians in Gaza. That is the message they've clearly delivered to Israel. And within the Israeli government, you have great division. There's this one guy, Itamar Ben-Gvir. He's an 8-time convicted terrorist. Think about that. Israel has a genuine convicted terrorist in its government. And he has the audacity to talk about Hamas terrorism. As I wrote last night, takes one to know one. Now, we would never tolerate, I would hope we'd never tolerate that here in the United States, of having an actual bona fide convicted terrorist in government. And let's be clear, it was the Israeli courts that convicted him. Are we going to say the Israeli courts were a bunch of anti-Semites? Because this madman who's in charge of so-called domestic security in Israel, just the other day issued an order to police that to go out and arrest and crack down on any Palestinian that was found celebrating the release of Palestinian prisoners. Think about that. What sort of madman, self-important, deluded, evil person would issue such an order? Yeah, if you've been waiting for a loved one that's been locked up for months, years, and they come out and you're told that you can't weep for joy, you can't shout praises to God that they're released, and you're going to get arrested for that? That's what we're talking about. Those kinds, this has shifted Israel from, in the past, Israel portrayed itself, 50 years ago, justifiably so, as this small little David, outnumbered by this massive Arab Muslim Goliath, and it was fighting for its life and for its survival. That's no longer the case. Israel's become the armed thugs. They behave as such, they talk as such, they treat the people as such. It's not to say all the citizens of Israel believe that or behave that way. In fact, Itamar Ben-Gvir, he only has like 29% approval rating right now in Israel. So it still shows that there are some Israelis with common sense left who recognize that their country's on the wrong track, but they're the ones who are going to have to put it back on the right track. But killing more Palestinians isn't going to do it.
Yeah.